Good.
Excellent. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our March webinar, Lessons Learned Before, During, and After a CloudSuite Implementation. My name is Darren Michael. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development with GeForce. We've got a great group of people with us today, and I really thank everybody for the great questions submitted. Our plan with this event is to allow you to gain a better understanding of implementation best practices, pitfalls to avoid during the process, post-implementation optimization, and so much more. But before we begin, let's just address two housekeeping items. GeForce has intentionally made this into a panel discussion to empower you, the attendees. If you have a question, please pass it to the panelists via the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom window. If you submitted questions ahead of time via our attendee survey link, rest assured we do have them, and we will make sure we answer as many of those questions as possible. But be assured, if we are unable to answer your questions, we'll make sure that we follow up with you to ensure the questions get answered. I'd like to introduce our guests for today's call. We've got Greg Gotlin, who is the GeForce Managing Director with over 25 years experience, beginning his career as a Lawson user, Lawson version 1.0, as controller at Hard Rock Cafe. Not really true. He has been instrumental in developing a best-in-class organization and leading all aspects of the business from architecture through delivery. Tatiana Dukvalov, did I pronounce that right?
That's
Close.
fine.
Close. All right.
Very close.
Is the head of IT for Continental Grain Company. She's worked there for over 25 years with previous roles as a system analyst and director of financial applications, and has been involved in all facets of their recent CloudSuite upgrade from version 9 of Lawson. A little bit about Conti is it's a worldwide organization that has been in business for over 200 years. They invest with trusted partners to grow the value of industry-leading businesses, including some that you may have heard of, like Keurig Dr. Pepper, Panera Bread, Kraft Heinz, and unfortunately, one of my favorites, Krispy Kreme. Tatiana has graciously provided us with some of her time to discuss specifics on their CloudSuite implementation. And our hope is that whether you work with GeForce or another consulting group, you leave here with some information that will impact your organization's future success. So if everybody's ready, let's get started with lessons learned before, during, and after a CloudSuite implementation. Tatiana, let me throw out a question to you really quickly, and that is, when we talk about your decision to move to CloudSuite, what is it that made you decide to move to CloudSuite, and what was really involved in that decision-making process?
Well, we looked at several packages, and actually we looked at CloudSuite several times. It was a very lengthy process, and our users were happy with having just Lawson and SBase. And it was working for them. The only thing that kind of was not, and that's where I was pushing the upgrade, was that we are running end of life on everything. SBase, as you know, Lawson 9 is end of life as well. Operating system, it was on-prem, so end of life. So it was time to move forward. And we would always go back to CloudSuite and start looking at that product because it had a lot of different features. And our company, as you just said, we do investments, we keep, we have corporate, we have operations, and to kind of cover all of the features that we needed to keep track of, we needed multidimensionality, and we would just always go back to CloudSuite. Another important point was the familiarity with the system. We know Lawson, so we assume that it's going to be much easier transition moving to CloudSuite.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of lean on that a little bit too is, yeah, I always hear one of the things that we promote is it's more similar than you think. We have to de-Lawsonify our Lawson users. Our net new users out there, they just find it easy to use, but our Lawson users are, where's my GL40? Where's my AP20? And we start to look at those, and the screens look more similar than they think. When they start to get in there, it's a matter of where do I go, and and then as soon as it usually takes just a few weeks before they start the navigation is like, wow, this is just so much easier. When can we go live? That kind of.
But it's also about the process. you book your journal entry, you have to create a header, you have to create distributions, you have to post it, you have to close the period. And all of those processes and sequence is basically the same.
So yeah, it's just in one place now, though. You don't have to
Oh,
know
absolutely. It's
10 different places to go. Yeah. So I think that was a big deal of, in helping people choose. But yeah, I've been asked, should we go out and do a net new implementation? Should we go out? And I say, look at what you have today and say, does it work for you? And if you had everything that there was, would that be a better solution for you? So yeah, you went down that path and you kept looking at other solutions and then came back, looked at other solutions and came back. And one of the things too is CloudSuite, how they deploy it now, just if you haven't talked to, but you get everything now. It's not like, oh, I didn't buy that module. So, and I think that's coming up to you now as you're starting to hear, you've been asking GeForce, how do I do this? How can I use
that was
this
the
module?
biggest plus, right? You're not buying one module, two modules, you're buying the whole suite.
Yeah. So tell me, Tatiana, how, I know you made a mention about being on-prem. So what's your experience so far being in the cloud? I mean, how has that been affecting you?
Love it.
Oh, really?
We had our 2 previous implementations of Lawson on-prem, and I would never go back on-prem, especially with a product like CloudSuite Financials. As you said, there are a lot of modules. Why would I want to waste my time or somebody else's time trying to maintain it and upgrade it? I just want my features to show up, all of my patches to be updated on and applied for me. So yeah, it actually works really great.
Yeah, let me ask you a quick question. We've got a question from the field, and that is, what is it like when you're planning for your implementation? What goes into it, and what are some of the things that you can do ahead of time to ensure that the implementation gets done smoother?
Okay, look at your reports, look at the way you need to get the data out, and start reviewing your chart of accounts. Start looking at the things and see, look at where you can improve processes. Can you get your data out? And again, just always start from the reports, because this is the outputs are everything in my mind, or your data analysis. But we actually, before we even signed up the contract, we started to look at chart of accounts, reviewing whatever can be, all the accounts can be left out, and started to see, is there a better flow to it? Does it follow our, main balance sheet or main P&L? How do we want to look at chart of accounts? Do we need alternate rollups?
Yeah, I always look at it as I tell my customers is, look out there, you're moving into a new house. Up in the attic and you're like, I don't want any of that stuff that's in the attic anymore. Don't bring it with you. Or maybe it just sits in the garage. Think about what you're going to, take this opportunity to clean up what you're going to do, some new stuff. Cleaning up your chart's a big deal of that as well. But also, the report side you mentioned is, I've learned, through these is that 80% of my reports are just a lot of data dumps. And I know we talked about this, maybe it's 50%, but it's a large percentage of your reports are really just major data dumps. And when you start to really address that, you find out I don't have to re-engineer those reports. I can get that data out of the system. And so sometimes you have to, before you start, list all your reports, get that RICE document out there, but don't think that you have to implement those. I think that's what slows down the implementation, is when we say, I need every one of those reports that I ever had out there before I can go live. I think you'll find that a lot of those reports were,
and I would add more to it, group your reports by functionality. If you have your roll forwards and they're showing the same dimension across on the columns, group them together, because you can just create one report, save as, change the dimensions, and here you go, you have another one. Or make it a prompt. So that's what helped us too. We basically created groups of different reports, and we started to work on, obviously, on the easy ones first, built one good one, and just did save as, change the chart of accounts, change the roll forward, change the investment, and here you have a new one. And then moved on to the more complex reports after that.
Okay.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Let me ask another question here. How did you determine what to implement? I know you had mentioned that you get basically every module, but how do you make that determination of what you want to implement? And then looking back, kind of, maybe Greg can answer this one too. What should you implement from the beginning?
Well, Greg, you want to answer it?
Sure, sure. I mean, everything integrates into the ledger, so you have to think about it from that perspective. But if I've never used a PO module before, and there's a lot of my customers out there that are absolutely purchasing, inventory, everything, and then you've got to go bring in all those modules. But there's other modules out there like close and recon that you didn't have them before, and they're great modules to implement during your implementation. So those are key modules that don't forget about, because they will help ease the implementation and give you wins. Because my end users, they don't want to implement and say, I went through all that work just to have exactly what I had. No, they want to have more. They want to have new tools. They want to have new ways of doing things. But I don't think it's more the modules like PO and AP and IC and payroll maybe, but looking at it as clean at my house, and then implementing some of the things like close module, the recon module, the cash and treasury module. Those are huge wins for an organization.
But also start, I would suggest the phased approach. Start with whatever is the minimum that you need to go live, and then add on.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you. So early on in this implementation, how did you get your users to buy into this? Like that this was something, that they were gonna, upgrade and provide the time and the dedication that it takes to do an upgrade or an implementation? Well,
we kind of had no choice. We had to upgrade, right? So
okay. So yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but did the team?
But you know what? I kept on. It was very interesting. That comment I got recently. From the day one, I was very excited. I said, "We're buying a Cadillac. You're gonna love it. You're gonna find it so easy to use. There's so many different features," and people were kind of hesitant. And now I get a feedback. You were right. This takes so much less time. This is wonderful. So yeah, it finally pays off.
Okay. So
yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah. So, just moving on to I know why you went there, and, why, there's how did you decide how much data you're going to bring over? You made some choices around that. Did you limit your data because it was not as clean as you wanted it to be? Or did you, what was your decisions to, and how much data did you bring over?
Well, our decision was pretty simple. We just wanted, all of our reports. I mean, the largest amount of data we show is, prior 3 years. So that was the decision. We decided to load 2 years of balances, 1 year of transactions, and then we went live with the year number 4. So we had plenty of data, to cover all of our reporting needs. And again, Lawson is not going anywhere. So if there is any historical data that we need to pull, it's there for us.
Yeah, I'm curious. So, the Lawson box is still running. How often do they go to it for the back stuff?
Not as often, which is surprise. I thought they're going to go there, more often, but the box is barely breathing. We had to restore data several times. That's why it kind of, we had to move off it.
Well, and I guess it was a leading question, because I find in every implementation I've ever done is that we'll take a lot of the Lawson legacy data and put it into legacy business classes in CloudSuite, and then it'll be a year later and someone say, where did that data get loaded? And I'm like, so you haven't looked at it in a year, so
right.
It really wasn't as important, as important as you think it is. It's nice. You don't want to let go. It's your security blanket data, so you don't have to let go of it, I guess is what I'm saying. I always tell people, convert what's actionable. Load all your data that you need, that you want for audit, and that's off to the side. It's still in there and accessible in CloudSuite. We put it in the legacy tables, but only convert what's actionable. That way you can clean up your house and make it perfect.
Absolutely.
You have to create a business unit that you didn't need. You didn't have to create a chart of accounts that's been obsolete for 5 years. So
Yeah, right. And that's why we didn't have to create some old investments that we've had, for 20 years.
so how long did it take you to get upgraded?
We actually signed the contract in September of 2020, and we went live in August 2021.
For about a
So
year
you would
and a half.
say, yes, 11 months.
And in hindsight, could, some of the things you learned, I mean, for our attendees today, is there things that you could have done to make it faster, or
Absolutely.
what could you do?
Well, we spent some time deciding which report writer to use, and it was like we probably lost about a month, I would say, deciding which report writer to use. Initially, we were told Burst is the solution to all of our reporting problems, but it turned out not to be. It's not as good with the highly formatted reports, like your balance sheet, income statements, and so on and so forth. So we kind of had to make a decision halfway in to say that, we're not going to be moving with the Burst as our main report writer. We're going to actually go back to BIFSM and use that. So, we'll have some time there.
Gotcha. Yeah, and BIFSM, if you haven't, some of the users that may already have upgraded that are on the call today, if you haven't seen the new BIFSM, you may be still looking at the old and going, I don't like it. Doesn't give me the information I need. Go look at the new BIFSM if you haven't. And if you don't know how to get there, just, reach out to me via email and I'll send you a good couple of screenshots of what to do to get to it. It's so much better. I don't know. Tatiana and I have been playing with it for several months now, so it's a lot of good stuff. There was a question out there about, did we upgrade just FSM? And the answer is yes, we didn't. We didn't do GHR. We have several other customers doing GHR at the same time, and I've been asked, just to throw it out there, what's the timing? You can do GHR, but if you're going to go and upgrade payroll as well, payroll's a much longer implementation, and you have to, so GHR can go up by itself. Financials can go up by itself, but payroll needs financials. So you want to make sure you have your financials and your chart of accounts and everything set up correctly before you start really getting deep into so if you're looking at your payroll, stagger it off a little bit, because you need a chart of accounts. So whatever that you say your new chart's going to be developed, or at a level that it can start to be used and make decisions around in payroll, that's the time. I wanted to throw that out there. So
yeah, and there's another question out there, and that is with integration with third-party applications. I mean, is that something that's easy with CloudSuite? Do you have any problem with integrations on any third-party applications that you're still using?
Not at all. I mean, we use our performance check printing software that is very unique. We had unique requirements, and actually what I like about the CloudSuite financials, yes, we did use consultants to develop the interface, but it's a standard interface. It's not custom made. I can, ask Greg's team to look at it and modify it. And, it's basically, just a script language that they use that, can be maintained by anybody else.
Yeah. And I'd say too, on the interface side, stick to keeping things standard. I've seen some implementations that have come in after, and they've tried to reinvent stuff that's already been designed and built. It's like you're reinventing the entire interface. The interfaces for bringing data in and getting data out are already there. So look to those first. You're going to find that those really satisfy your needs for bringing in a journal entry, bringing in AP data, extracting data to another system. And then AP, like we said, for check printing. Guess what, everybody? You really don't need a third-party check printing system. So if I have anybody on from MHC, they'll shoot me later. But you can print without a third-party solution, and it's all built into the system. You on day one, you should be able to have your e-remittance just sent out. I know Tatiana, that's one of her you did that after the fact, but you know
Yeah,
how
that's
easy it is. You could have gone live with that in 2 seconds, right?
yes, it was unbelievable, with Greg, like it was one, turning a little switch here and there. And finally, we saving so much time because person doesn't need to manually send tons of emails saying, oh, your invoice has been paid by ACH. These are the details. It happens automatically. That is like an absolute time saver for us.
Mhm.
Yep. And Greg, let me pose a question to you that was just posed out here, and that is, are there any other potential pitfalls that you've seen that could cause delays in projects as you've been implementing and talking to customers out there?
Can I answer?
Yeah, go.
Yeah, please.
So for us, and I'm talking about just our specific implementation, we were thinking very long and hard about whether we should separate our, accounting unit and create like a custom dimension for it versus using what is traditionally known as accounting unit in Lawson. What we didn't realize was that when you push this data into BIFSM, you cannot report an accounting unit across all of the companies. It still says company 1 dash, department, company 2 dash department. So if you need just to roll your data on a department, you're not going to be able to. And that was the biggest pitfall for us. So if I had to redo my implementation, I would definitely not use what's known as Lawson accounting unit, just create custom dimension for it.
Yeah, if you're implementing and you want to keep just using the term accounting unit, put it into dimension 1. You really limit yourself if you don't. So
you can name it accounting unit. You don't
you
have to get
whatever you
rid
want.
of the name.
Yeah, keep your name, but don't use the accounting unit flag. There's no undo for accounting unit. Once you've turned it on, you must use it forever and ever.
And then
I didn't say that. There's a way to get off of it, but it's
but it's an extra because it's a mandatory field. So anytime you put a transaction in, you have to put a value. So for us, we had to create like D, one letter, one keystroke. If we don't want to put the values, but every time you create transaction, you have to put something in there.
Yeah, and just a note on that, thinking about your chart of accounts up front, think about accounting unit structure too, or your department structure. That structure is super important to your whole code block. So think about your whole code block and how you use that. If you don't, then you're gonna end up with exactly what you had, and that's not what you necessarily want. You may have decisions that you're not ready to make until you get on the system, and that's not picking accounting unit. That field's actually called accounting unit, and putting it into dimension 1 and using that there, because that allows you the flexibility to further break it down later and expand from there.
And don't be afraid to use dimensions. Don't think that you're going to be like using 1 or 2. It's okay to use 3, but again, if you don't need it, you just leave it blank. You skip it.
Yep. And backing up to your reporting comment about Burst too. Burst is it's a good tool, but it's for 3-dimensional type things. It's for widgets. It's for analytics. It's not designed to be your 2-dimensional reporting system. That's BIFSM that's built into the system. And also it's real-time BIFSM. So thinking of it that way. So don't think that you have to extract your data to Burst to say, that's how I'm going to do all of my reporting. That might be part of it, but that might be how you push it out to your field. But BIFSM is really, you're going to find, is so powerful to push that data.
And that was the biggest thing that we kind of realized too late. For bursts, to refresh the data, it takes time. For us, it was about 45 to 60 minutes. BIFSM is instantaneous. As you post your journal entries, the balances get updated. And if you want to refresh the whole cube, it takes less than a minute, maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I was impressed with the timing.
Yeah, we've got one more question before we move on, and that is, can you upgrade and remain on-prem?
The answer is no to that. You must go to, I do not believe that Infor is selling an on-prem solution for this, but I guess to Tatiana, what you said earlier is the best thing that ever happened was moving to multi-tenant.
Why would you?
Yeah, and And it's actually more secure than you could ever have your on-prem. You do own all your own data, so your data is separate. It's not like your data is mingled in with a bunch of other customers' data. It is still your data. You still have full access to that data. I think it's a misconception out there that if I'm in the cloud, I don't have access to my data. You can query your data, you can extract your data. The data lake that you can push data into through, you can actually put data in the data lake and use it for data from your FSM and GHR and payroll solution. All that can be in this one, like the Infor wants you to use that as like the kind of the core place, and you own it. It's yours. You can get to it. You can query it. You can do, you can extract it. You can build imports into it, exports out of it, but as well as we call that replicated data. Replicated data takes minutes to put in there, so it's pretty real time. And then there's, of course, I can still extract my live data, so that's still available as well.
Right, now let's move on to after the implementation. So, Tatiana, tell us the truth. How does CloudSuite working for you? How's FSM?
Actually, everybody is loving it. It's it works really great. We have so many, like we were able to improve so many processes, the internal processes, and again, before we had Lawson, we had Essbase, we had to maintain two systems separately. You have to do the push to get your data out. Nobody has to worry about it anymore. It happens, the data update happens automatically, and Infor is maintaining my software, so what's not to like about it? All you get is, okay, the maintenance is going to start at midnight, on a weekend, and then it's done. That's it.
That's nice. You don't have to worry about it. Now, conversely, have you experienced any kind of performance issues at all?
I think initially, like probably 6 months ago, the logging into one of the BIFSM browser, through the browser was a little slow, but then it turned out to be a browser issue, and we had to clean up the cache, and it started to work fine. But even now, like, we can use multiple browsers, and the performance is pretty good.
Okay. No, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. So you had mentioned before that you like the phased approach. You thought that was the best thing, and basically when you implement to start, you should just go with what you need basically to go live.
Right.
So my question to you is this: what did you not implement at your initial go live that you plan on implementing post go live?
Well, a couple of things. ACH was one of them. The remittance notifications. But the bigger one is for the cash ledger. We basically book transactions manually, and Greg is gonna cringe and he's gonna yell. But we definitely want to do the bank reconciliations, right, and load bank statements and do automatic reconciliation to speed up the process there.
The cash and treasury module, the BI, all that integration and the close and recon, all your reconciliation, if you implement those and you start you're going to find that your close process is just so much faster. So again, going back to one of the earlier questions was what to implement during the implementation, and one of our things when we're implementing GeForce is that's included in all our implementation. Close and recon is part of every implementation. It can't not be. It's so much. It's actually a good training tool. So the close module actually has instructions on how to do it. So it's like when I have the new person sit down, I say, yep, this is how you close general ledgers, how you close AP. This is the steps that you need to do, and in the middle you need to take a break or whatever it is. All that's in there and telling you exactly what to do, where to go. And I think one of the big things that you find in close processes in general is that access to that closed documentation. I think that's a big one, Tatiana, that you love. You always tell me about is like, yeah, I can now. They don't ask questions anymore, the auditors, or where did that entry come from? Because
Yes, we basically attach all of the support to all of our journal entries from the get-go. And actually the journal doesn't get posted until, it's double checked that all of the support is attached. And, to go back later on to find out why did you book this entry is so easy. You just drill into it and support is right there. You have your comments and you know who did it, why they did it. It's wonderful.
That's great. And a couple other questions, just to kind of go back, and I think a few people might have missed this, but again, how many years of data did you migrate? And then Greg, from your perspective, what's the optimal amount of data to migrate?
Well, let me try, because Tatiana had answered that. She said that she did about 3 years worth of general ledger history and
Yep.
3 years worth of GL and 5 years worth of history. And that's really the right amount to do. I've heard, oh, I need 7. Converting AP history and that kind of stuff is not a big deal. On the PO side, I recommend open POs and only open POs and open receivers. It's a great time to clean up if you're currently a Lawson customer, or even non-Lawson if you're using another product out there and you're going to migrate to CloudSuite. You have a ridiculous amount of open POs that are not really open. I just can tell you that. I just know it. And there's probably some supply chain people just shaking their head like this. And so take that time to clean up your data. It's actionable data, convert actionable data, things that are actually you're going to use when you go live, not, I need 10 years worth of GL history because I might want to go back and look at something from that. There's other ways to do 5 years and 10 years worth of year-over-year reporting to get to there. You don't need to necessarily convert all that data there. I can put it into budgets. I can put it into a different ledger. There's a lot of different ways to get to that data. So keep that in mind.
Okay, and one more question, and that is, do you have ample time to test before Infor releases a new CU?
So you want to? I can go with this one if you want.
You can go.
So yeah, the CUs come out every single month. In fact, this last weekend they came out. The system's down for, I don't even know if the system is really down. I've never not had access. It happened in when I'm not touching the system, but I don't know that there's an actual system really outage. As far as testing it, Infor does offer a prod environment. I forgot the name of it exactly, but you can get the one that's basically a month off of the updates. So you get to see what the updates are going to be and do that. I will tell you that the updates, you can also look in the Infor and see what the new updates are coming up. So you see what the next release is going to have. On occasion, I've seen that there's an issue with the CU out there. The only times I've seen that issue is when I'm integrating with third-party pieces. I think there's one person on the call today that had this issue with his, exporting to my MHC solution. The check format changed, so those are things to keep up on and make sure you're looking at. But yeah, it was an inconvenience on that one, but it was correctable very quick. And then things that happened that, one of the things I talk about with CUs is when I'm being affected as an individual single tenant, it's just me. And, yeah, we'll get to that. We're going to put a patch out. It's going to come out in 3 months. When it's affecting the entire tenant, it gets fixed really quickly. Hot fixes happen. So if it's really a big deal.
But also, with the BIFSM, you're in control when you apply the patches yourself, right? So or DEPM, right? So you can apply to your test environment, test your reports, get comfortable with it, and then bring it into production.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. A lot of the things that come out in the CU, you get to action into them. They're a new field, a new thing. So you don't actually have to take, because they added something new. It's something to opt into, not to opt out of, to get to there. And there was a question around budgeting too. I just saw it pop up. I just feel it's a good timing for it. Budgeting tools, you mentioned DEPM. DEPM, the full budgeting tool, is a great solution for your budgeting. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would have said, yeah, but it's a great solution. It's fully integrated into our BIFSM solution. So budgeting tools that you're looking to do. There was a what budget model did you go with? And then how are your, I'm not sure what they meant by how are your conversions. Were they more like upgrade or totally new implementation? It wasn't it's like to kind of like you can take from a GL implementation, from an loss into FSM, loss into CloudSuite. So you could do a like to kind of like and really get to there and not have to make too much changes. But and if you want to take more changes, it's not like a brand new implementation. Don't think of that, because Tatiana, you said it would have taken you a year to do that. A net new implementation is going to could take you years to do it, depending on the size of your organization. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's true. And one more question here that just popped up, and that is somebody wants to know if BI FSM is free with CloudSuite, and if there's anything that doesn't come with CloudSuite when you purchase it.
BI FSM comes with CloudSuite. It is part of it. There was a question out there: is it replace Loss and BI? Loss and BI is not even in the same ballpark with BI FSM. BI FSM is our reporting tool. If you're in Mingle and you click on the waffle, you click over to BI FSM. It's fully integrated with your financials. There's no I need to create a report out there. There's reports already pre-built for you, and the actual income statement's usable. Okay, it's not like my GL 293. It's not a. But
you can build your own custom reports.
Yeah. You can.
And you can also use Excel retrieve from BIFSM.
Yep. There's some office tools that can be used as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool, but it is offered. And then as far as what else doesn't come with it, GHR, payroll, FSM. Those are your three suites that you're implementing. So when I get FSM, I'm getting all of supply chain, all of financials. So that includes lease management. There is a new release for the lease 842. I just saw it pop up this month. It's a new release, so you can start to see the 842 out there. Lease management is fully functional in there again. So anybody who implemented lease management and then was told by Infor that there was no longer going to support the 842, that's back in play, mainly because 842 wasn't, if the accounts out there, the ASU 842 was so in flux, no one knew what to even how to, even the auditors didn't know how to audit it. You get 5 different answers. So it's fully functional now. It's out there as of the last CU. Now the 842 is fully functional out there as well. So do you know of anything that you didn't get, Tatiana, that you wish you, I can't think of anything that you have to purchase separately.
Well, actually, when we were not, like, initially we weren't happy with Burst, and I was like, oh my God, we're gonna have to go and buy a new report writer. And we went back to the sales rep and he goes, you've got everything. Why would you want to look at what you have? You already have something in there. Why don't you just take another look at it? And obviously BIFSM was just sitting there waiting for us. And like, I don't know why you would want to go and buy something else.
Yeah, and the Burst side of things, and is a great tool out there for analytics, like I said. So when you're looking for that analytical data to provide to my the dashboard type analytic data, looking at widgets, that's the place where you want to look at Burst.
Slicing and dicing your data. That's
And the delivered content that comes with it. There's one thing I want to say about to everybody. I've been to a lot of software demos, and you see all the bells and whistles, and look at all these pretty graphs and all these things and all these reports you could have. And that's not true in CloudSuite. It's what you will have. Those are everything you see is out of the box solutions. And that's what I think is, understand that. I mean, us Lawson users that have been out there forever and ever and ever, we know, we've heard that, and then we implement things like Lawson BI, and then it's like, oh, well, I didn't really get that tool that goes with Lawson BI, the BI part of BI, the cube part. Well, and I never implemented it. It was too hard to implement. All that's just built in. It's just done, and on day one you're using it. I mean, it's not like you had to turn on BIFSM. You didn't. It just works. You did deploy some new reports, though. I mean, you created some.
Absolutely. Yes, we created custom reports just because we wanted to see, our P&L certain way. But what the best thing about it, you click at the balance and you can actually drill down all the way down to the transaction. You have your support, you have your description, you know what happened to this balance. So that saves a lot of time to all of our users. That ability, because it's all one product, just to go back to, by, literally 1 click, 2 clicks, you're there and you're looking at your transaction.
Yeah, and there was a question out there about customizations, and Tatiana, I know that you and I both love configuration console. So customizations became, it's no longer a customization, it's called a configuration. So
right,
the source module. So
and one thing that you kind of have to be, not careful but aware of, the screens that you come, or the first time you look at the screens in Infor, you may be missing 1 field, 2 fields, 3 fields. Don't be discouraged. You can add them yourself, and you can, resort a
an
field.
end user can add them.
Oh yeah, and save it as your personal configuration. However, if you feel like this should apply to the whole company, that's where the custom, whatever you call it, custom configurations come to play.
Mhm.
And we've used both. We have both.
Yep.
Well, that's great. That's great. Listen, so much great information today. I want to thank everyone for attending today's discussion. I'll make sure that we send out a post-event questionnaire. I really would appreciate it if you would fill it out and return it, as we're always looking for feedback on our events and always ways to get better. Also, this recording will be emailed to everyone, so please feel free to forward to anyone in your organization that you think might benefit. My email address is Darren Michael. You probably have it all on your on some of the subsequent emails, but it's Darren it's dmichael DMICHAEL at thegforce.com. And if you have any other questions, or you'd like to set up a meeting to continue this conversation, or even provide a CloudSuite demo, please feel free to reach out to me. Lastly, make sure that you like us on LinkedIn and follow us on our website, www.thegforce.com, for more information about upcoming events and to watch some of our previous webinars. Thank you to everyone that attended today's event, and we really hope that it was truly beneficial. Thank you also to Tatiana and Greg for all the great information. We hope that everyone has a great day, and definitely looking forward to more future interactions.
Yeah,
Thanks so much, everybody.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.